Imagine buying a forgotten old house, fixing it up with your own hands, and turning it into something beautiful, only for an HOA Karen to show up and try to throw you out of it. That's exactly what happened to me when I bought a rundown home that wasn't even inside their HOA, and somehow that made them furious. Before we start, let me know which country you're watching this video from in the comments below. And if you love true HOA and entitled people revenge stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories just like this. I'd always wanted a quiet place to settle down after years of city living. So when I came across an old Victorian-style house on the edge of a suburban neighborhood, I couldn't believe my luck. The property was over 100 years old, weathered and overgrown, but full of character. It sat just outside the official boundaries of the local HOA, a detail I made sure to double-check before signing the papers. After closing the deal, I moved in and started restoring the place from the ground up. Every day, I sanded, painted, repaired, and polished. The once faded blue paint slowly came back to life. The cracked porch was rebuilt. The garden started blooming again. Neighbors would stop by sometimes, curious to see the progress. Most were kind, offering help or advice. But then came her, Karen, the HOA president. She didn't even live on my street, but she ruled over the neighborhood like it was her personal kingdom. Her house was at the end of the cul-de-sac, twice remodeled and lined with white columns, a monument to her self-importance. The first time she saw me working, she slowed her SUV to a crawl, rolled down her window, and glared like I'd stolen something from her. I remember the look, the kind of stare that said, "You don't belong here." Within a week, flyers appeared on my mailbox. HOA welcome packets, dues schedules, notices about approved paint colors and yard regulations. I ignored them, assuming it was a mistake. But the next week, a letter arrived written in stiff legal tone demanding I attend an orientation meeting for new homeowners under their jurisdiction. That's when I realized it wasn't a mistake, it was Karen. She'd decided that because my property bordered the HOA's land, she could simply claim it as part of their community. No vote, no process, just her authority. I politely declined the invitation by ignoring it completely. That didn't sit well with her. Soon, her complaints started. One day, a man in a reflective vest came to my door claiming to be an HOA inspector. He said my porch railing was non-compliant. I asked who sent him, and he mentioned the board. That told me everything. Karen had escalated. Next came the harassment. Anonymous notes left under my door about unsightly renovations. HOA newsletters mentioning unapproved exterior improvements. Even a few calls from contractors asking when I'd pay the community maintenance fee. She was trying to pressure me into submitting to her HOA. It didn't work. Instead, I gathered every document I had, the deed, the boundary map, county records, all proving that my house was on unincorporated land outside of any HOA authority. I knew I was legally in the clear, but Karen didn't care about laws. She cared about control. A few weeks later, she made her move. It was a Saturday morning. I was out repainting my fence when I heard shouting. 3 SUVs pulled into my driveway, blocking me in. Out stepped Karen, 2 board members, and a hired security guard in a cheap black uniform. She looked like she was about to lead a parade. Without hesitation, they walked straight at my porch and started inspecting everything. The windows, the railings, even my mailbox. The security guard stood crossed arms like he was guarding a crime scene. They told the neighbors I was being evicted for violating HOA standards. People peeked from behind curtains, confused. Some even believed her. Then came the biggest shock. A tow truck arrived to remove my pickup from my own driveway. That's when I knew this wasn't some idle bluff. She was actually trying to enforce an eviction on property she didn't own, in a neighborhood she didn't control. I didn't confront them directly. Instead, I took out my phone, started recording, and called the county sheriff's office. When the deputies arrived 20 minutes later, the entire scene flipped upside down. The officers checked my deed, confirmed the address, and immediately turned their attention to Karen and her crew. They asked for documentation proving their authority, and of course she didn't have any. She tried to argue, waving her clipboard like it was a badge of power, but the deputies weren't having it. They informed her she was trespassing on private property and could face charges if she didn't leave immediately. The security guard stepped back fast, clearly realizing he'd been misled. Karen's face went pale. The HOA board members whispered among themselves, realizing they'd crossed a serious line. Within minutes, they were escorted off my property. That might have been the end of it, but I wasn't done. I filed a formal complaint with the county, attaching the video I recorded. I also sent a copy to the local news outlet, who happened to be running a segment about HOA abuse. Within days, the story spread like wildfire online. The headline read, "HOA tries to evict a man from his own non-HOA property." People couldn't believe it. Comments poured in from across the country, mocking the HOA's arrogance. Even other HOA presidents called it an embarrassment to their profession. Karen tried to backpedal, saying it was a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. Her reputation was gone. She was forced to step down as HOA president after members voted her out. As for me, I finished restoring my home in peace. The porch gleamed in fresh white paint, the garden was lush and full of life. The bridge I built over the small creek sparkled after a rainfall. Every time I sat on the porch, sipping my coffee, I smiled knowing that no HOA and no Karen would ever touch this place again. Ironically, the property value of the surrounding homes went up after my renovations. Even the same neighbors who once looked nervous now waved when they walked by. My home became a kind of local landmark, the house that stood up to the HOA. And Karen? She moved away quietly a few months later. Rumor has it she tried joining another HOA board in a nearby neighborhood, but her name was already infamous. No one wanted her.